Hi. Do you find it interesting that two people can look at the very same thing and see something completely different? I think the older I get, the more I realize it's true that we don't see the world as it actually is. We see it as we are. We're looking at the world. We're listening to what's happening in the world through the filters of our conditioning. What we like, what we dislike, who we dislike. There's not as much truth, it seems, in the world, as much as there is our own perception of the world around us. You know what I find interesting about that? I remember hearing the story Ram Dass told about his first trip on psilocybin. And he said while he was in the trip, he and his friend Tim Leary were watching the dog, and the dog had gone outside to do its business in the snow. When it came back inside, it was panting. And they had an argument over the panting, whether or not the dog was panting normally or going to die. And what was interesting about that moment is that neither one of them actually knew. Neither one were veterinarians. They didn't know. So finally, the 11-year-old son of Tim Leary came downstairs and straightened him out. But Ram said he walked into the living room and he sat down. And he noticed that as he sat down, he realized in that moment that there was this real sensation that was happening, but he couldn't explain it, and he didn't know how to really feel in that moment because he felt a lot happening. It was his first trip on psilocybin, and he's sitting there thinking, well, I feel a little bit crazy. I feel a little bit nuts, but as long as I can hold on to my body, I'm in good shape. I'll be fine as long as I can hold on to my body. I realize in this moment now that I've reached this pinnacle of taking this chemical into my body that I'm possibly not Dr. Richard Alpert anymore, that I'm possibly not going to have a job as a professor after this, that I'm possibly not a good Jewish young man. But as long as I have this body, I'll be fine. And he said, and at that moment, he looked down, and from his knees down, his body began to disappear. And as he looked on further up, now it was waist down, body disappeared, and then his torso was gone, and then he couldn't see anything else. And the only thing he said he could see was the couch he was sitting on, and it occurred to him, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm going away. I'm no longer me. And at that moment, he had this realization. Wait. Who is the one who's no longer me? See, when we only identify as our bodies, our titles, our genders, our political standings, our racial standings in the world, when we only identify with those things, what happens when they're gone? Where are you? What's left when all of that is gone? So when I think about how now I see the world, how I see politics, how I see politicians, how I see the whole workings of the world around me, I realize as I sit here right now with you on Facebook Live that I'm not seeing the world really as it is either. I'm seeing it as I am. And so I ask myself, how do I want to see the world, and how do I want to present myself to the world? And you know what? At the end of the day, the way I want to see the world and the way I want to present myself to the world, this may shock you. It's probably going to make you lose your mind. This may shock you. But the way I want to see the world, the way I want to experience the world, the way I want to show up in the planet is as love, compassion, kindness, respect, honor, courage, strength, generosity, loving awareness. And so that's how I want to see the world. And I'll tell you why. Because when I live from that space, It is so much more fulfilling than the space I've lived from before, where I thought I had to judge people and move people into a particular mold and so that they wouldn't go to hell for eternity or so that they could have good graces with God. I used to think through those filters, and so therefore I saw the world through those filters, and now I don't. I celebrate people for who they are. I celebrate the world for what it is. And that includes the garbage that shows up. That includes the darkness and the daylight. That includes the good smells and the bad smells. And of course I gravitate toward liking the good smells more and the good tastes more and the better, more pleasure-filled experiences. Of course I gravitate toward them in my physical being. But there's always this awareness that I am not my body. I am not my gender. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my feelings. I'm not my emotions. I'm not those things. I'm the one who's able to observe those things. So yeah, it's been made clear to me more and more every day that we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are. So what does that say about you? What does it say about you? Think about when you watch the news, when you see a political figure or a celebrity, a man or a woman, a person who's gay or straight, black, Latino, Asian, white, professional, not professional, street sweeper or lawyer or doctor, how do you see them? Because how you see them and how you're receiving them it actually does say more about you than it does them. So how am I seeing the world? This is the question I ask myself. Because how I'm seeing the world is the way I am, not really the way the world is. So think on that. Perception is the ultimate reality, whether it's the ultimate truth or not. How you're perceiving the world and people is also how you're receiving the world and people. And that will determine what shows up on the screen of your life. You know, what you plug into a television will determine what gets pumped onto the screen. And the same is true for you. And people are watching your life in high definition. And so, how do you see the world? Because you see it as you are, not as it actually is. So, as I mentioned yesterday on our live video on One Love Spirit Center's page, I believe in the month of February that we are entering a space of time where there's a real short space between what I want to manifest and it showing up. I really believe that. Like, I feel that. I feel like the universe is correcting itself. And in some way, we're getting caught in the middle of that. But what you're wanting to manifest and when it shows up is a much closer time frame. And I'll try to illustrate what I mean is that maybe what you wanted to show up in your life took 7 days before. Now it's going to take 7 hours, maybe 7 minutes. So that space of time has been kind of crunched. So what you really want is what you're attracting, and what you really don't want is what you're attracting. So the important thing is to be in balance, not imbalanced, but to be in a place of balance. So now that you know the way you see the world is the way you are, what will you go and do with that for the rest of today? That's the inner work we have to do, to learn how to get into loving awareness. Loving awareness gives us the ability to live a life full of love. What you focus on expands. And so if you're focusing on love, it will expand in your life. And it doesn't matter if it expands in someone else's life, because it's expanding in your life, and that's what you're going to start putting out into the world around you. And your light's going to shine. And people may think you're strange and weird, and how could you just be so wide open, inclusive of everybody? But live that love anyway. Live in that space of love anyway, because that's really who you are. You are the essence of loving awareness. All right. So, now that I know, I'm very aware, that I see the world as I am, not as it is. The only work I have to do is right here. I don't need to work on Donald Trump. I don't need to work on Joe Biden. I don't need to work on gay and lesbian people, heterosexual, work on evangelical Christians. I don't need to work on ultra conservatives. That's not my work to do. My work is it's right here. It's right here. It's right here. It's the old hymn in the church. I remember years ago, it's not my brother or sister, oh Lord, that's in need of prayer. It's me. It's me who needs that inner work. And so our work for this whole month of February is to love beyond the veil. Join us on Sunday. We're going to talk about that a little more. Okay, I'm going to get off of here. I just thought I'd jump in for a moment. I noticed some things going on in our world, and I was like, man, I really don't, and most people don't see the world as it is in reality, because it's alternate. You can alter that reality based on you, who you are. If the whole earth was blind, then the sun wouldn't be light. It would just be heat. That's the power you have. Think about that for just a moment. If the whole earth, if everything and everyone on the planet was blind, couldn't see, the sun wouldn't be light. It would only be heat. This is how powerful you are. So go and do something great with that power. Peace.